Yeah, it's a different style, isn't it, compared to the Misfits of last year where you had the lanes pushing in both your solo lanes, Razor comes to punish them. What happens this time around for Misfits? Well, both lanes are still pushing and doing well individually, but now their jungler actually gets to farm and be more resource heavy and use those pushing lanes to get himself jungle camps. Similar to how Rogue functioned last year where they picked 2 prio lanes for Larssen or Dwamne, and then Inspired would take that and farm up. We're seeing a similar style for Misfits here in 2022.
Yes, and we get to see our first draft on the new patch in week 5 of the LEC BDS versus Misfits, and I'm hoping for some fireworks at least this week.
New patch, maybe we will get some fireworks. Ahri, is it a first pick worthy champion?
Ooh, I'd love to see it.
How far has Zeri fallen down the prios as well?
And you talked about Veteo's champion pool earlier. It feels like one of the big benefactors of all these mid lane nerfs to some of the premier options is Vetheo, because he wasn't playing most of them anyway. So see if that's what they want to use blue side first pick. We heard Grabs highlighted already how important that pick is in a meta with so many powerful champions. But despite the nerfs to Twisted Fate, still going to be a high prio ban.
The interesting thing about new big patches is I've talked about this previously when it comes to other patches. You have 2 different scrim methods. Not all teams scrim each other because they play each other on certain weekends, so you have 2 different scrim groups and scrim blocks. And when you come into a competitive game like this, you get to see those 2 contrasting styles where, for example, Misfits might have been scrimming against TF and it still looks strong. We ban it away. BDS, for example, might have scrimmed TF and be like, wow, we've actually found a way to manage it with the nerfs and we have a counter pick and we don't mind it too much. We don't mind it being open, so we'll leave it open. They ban it on blue side. So the Zeri ban coming in from BDS, a lot of the champions who have been nerfed are still being banned away, and that's just growing pains in the patch as well, right? As much as these champions might still be strong, as the weeks go on, teams learn, dissect, and they figure out what's actually the strongest champion.
Yeah, and I want to see how much priority is going to be put on jungle picks here, as well as bot lane. xMatty, I feel like, has also had a bit of a rough split. It hasn't been as flashy in a rough kind of way as maybe Adam's struggles have been, but I want to see what they're going to prioritize. Last week it was Lethality Varus. I think he's looked solid on the Ezreal, but it doesn't feel like his champion pool has been as carry-focused as the meta would normally dictate. So curious where that's going to go, but ultimately, I think this first pick is going to show us a lot in the draft, unless they just lock LeeSin, which is obviously the Shlatan special, and reveals very little.
I like the LeeSin first pick. You could think, well, Corki could be picked up. Well, 1, it's nerfed, and 2, Vetheo doesn't really lean towards Corki as much, so he's just going to ignore that one away. I like the Gwen ban from BDS because Misfits is blinding top on blue side no matter what. They want to give counter pick to Adam. What's one of the strongest blind picks here it has? It's Gwen. He might lock it in early. Maybe they'll target top lane on 4-5 as well, 4 bans. But are we going to get the first game of Ahri on 12.3? Adam might be teasing us here a bit. No, we're going to get Ryze, which is such a staple pick in the LCK in the eastern regions in general, because you just build tank Ryze, you get the push, you play over side lane, you're pretty much unkillable.
And despite the Caitlyn nerfs, they're going to pick up the Caitlyn here, which I frankly love for xMatty. I want to see if they're going to pair it with a range support just to ensure reliable pushing bot side. But I agree completely. I think NUCLEARINT is a great Ryze player. And honestly, with all the nerfs to the LeBlanc, Twisted Fate, and Corki, again, we're going to talk about it a lot throughout the day. I think Ryze rises in priority so significantly because I think the Fimbulwinter build is broken as hell. It's so strong.
Jhin is on my mind here for Misfits. If they're playing something like LeeSin, no, they're going to go for Jinx instead. So maybe they will match range support with range support. The problem you have when you draft against Caitlyn on red side specifically is because they can counter pick support. Or they can pick Lux on 3 and ban away 2 support. So picking up full bot lane makes a lot more sense for Misfits. That's why blue side Caitlyn was strong, yes, but giving red side Caitlyn is horrible when they get counter pick support.
Can be very difficult, but the question for me is BDS, now they can just get counter pick support for free, which I think is a solid situation to be. Normally I would maybe advocate for saving that for top, but that's because the Thresh has been locked by Misfits, it does make it easy. Now Thresh, still incredibly powerful support, and the thing I love about Thresh is into melee matchups, he's more like an enchanter, he's more like a disengage option. Against range options like the Karma, he can be the source of engage, so he is a flexible pick and a flexible option, but that's not going to stop him from, how do I phrase this without swearing, getting his stuff pushed in early in the game.
Wow, Jesus, I look at that bot matchup. Caitlyn, Karma is obviously going to push that lane in so heavily, and as much as it's good, BDS need to make sure that they're very wary of early ganks, right? I mean, this lane is so vulnerable. We've seen level 2 ganks and it falls apart. Caitlyn, Lux, all that good stuff, and I like the Thresh blind pick. I was thinking more so Jhin for Misfits, because with LeeSin you want to set up picks. Thresh makes that a lot easier with LeeSin. Really good pairing, really good mid-jungle jungle support 2v2. And the problem BDS have here is they haven't picked their jungler, so they're going to get banned out. Maybe Cinkrof needs to go for something like Trundle or Olaf to support this bot lane.
And interesting, Cinkrof again continues to be, I think, the most consistent player on this lineup, so the fact that he's willing to sacrifice himself in draft as well is credit to him, but how much is it going to cost BDS is my big question. Syndra ban coming out, keep in mind, last time we saw the Ryze locked in, I believe Vetheo against Caps did opt for the Cassio. Very difficult champion to play and execute, but obviously a pretty solid matchup.
Now the question I have is it a Karma support? Are we going to see a Karma top? I really hope not, because the bot lane is so strong with Caitlyn Karma, but you can play Karma top with Smite, you can play Janna top with Smite. Will we get this picked up? But on this 4th pick, expecting BDS to pick up their jungler, match it into LeeSin, things like Olaf are open, things like Trundle are open. Any AD jungler suits Ryze perfectly, and then counter pick top. Setup is the aim of the game from this Ryze. Viego, of course, another AD jungler, which could be the pickup.
Interesting, interesting. Obviously, if they do want to go back to the Blade of the Rune King build, which was a lot more popular when he was really strong, Divide Sunder or Blade of the Rune King would be buffed slightly on this patch.
So Vetheo has two options here. You could go for something like a Kali to threaten the Caitlyn backline, or get something that sets up better with LeeSin. With LeBlanc and Syndra being down, Victor or Orianna, the only real control mages you can lean towards. But a Kali dives in with LeeSin a lot better. So you have two options when you have LeeSin. Do you have dive, or do you have good setup and good scaling with the jungler itself? Zoe, really good setup with LeeSin. You gotta love it. Bubble into Q is so fantastic. Blind pick Camille for HiRit, instantly locked in. Adam, we know him for his Olaf. Do we know him for his Jax, is what I was going to say as well. Is he going to pick Jax into the Camille? Of course, notorious matchup across the world as a counter pick after one item. Camille can win the lane 1 to 5, but after level 7 and 8, couple bases coming in, Jax should take over.
And pressure on Adam to perform in this game. Again, we highlighted difficult previous week. Ultimately, he has the counter pick here. You feel like this is the most set up for success that he can be, opting for the Sett.
Now, we know Adam's Sett from, I think it was Playoffs or Worlds, I can't remember so much, where he just pushes in the first 3 waves and runs mid and ganks mid, blows his flash, makes sure he has mid push, and then they can come top and dive afterwards. So I wonder if we're going to see Adam roam around. Misfits need to be very aware of Adam's roam timers.
And I think similarly, flashless Zoe sounds absolutely unplayable in lane. So if they can shut Vetheo down early, it's going to be super difficult for Misfits.
Yeah, looking across the board, BDS has the bot push, mid lane contested. Zoe should get it, but jungle 2v2 in favor of Misfits. Top lane, absolute Armageddon. Sett will get the early push. HiRit needs to keep track of him. But the true damage on Camille, 1 or 2 items under her belt, she should be able to match the Sett. But of course, Sett into melee matchups always dominates in the early stages.
Absolutely. If the Sett and Ryze get going, if they get ahead, it's going to be so hard for Misfits to play the game. On the opposite side, if the Jinx Zoe composition breaks mid lane tower first, so easy to play. You have reliable disengage, you have reliable engage. Pretty straightforward to either team if they can find the lead early.
Yeah, fantastic comps from both sides. BDS running more of a 1-3-1, Misfits with this 1-4 with HiRit over side lane. Needs to match them both, but really, really good setup.
Awesome. Also, we got to remember some of these players are playing on the LEC stage for the first time in their lives. I wonder if that's going to come out to play. But I love that we set up this top lane matchup and that they both have been underperforming a bit on the side of Adam and HiRit. And now they have to perform. Let's get into our first game of the day and join Quickshot and Nymaera after this.
Hello, ladies, gentlemen, and everybody else. Welcome to Summoner's Rift and the caster desk, where I, Quickshot, am also joined by a first-timer on the stage. Nymaera, welcome to the broadcast and the show. We were talking a little bit about the draft that was covered so beautifully by the analyst desk, but I want to give you a shot to tell us what were some of the things that stood out in your mind.
Okay, so obviously first time for everything, but there's some returners as well. Returners of the player of the stage. Yourself, shocked so much. Sadly not a return of Ari to the stage, which would have been great for me. But the thing for me is that we also have a new kind of debut for BDS in their bot lane. I don't think BDS have ever played this much towards a lane-dominant bot side. We know that their mid-jungle loves to take advantage of their early fighting prowess early on. You can see that Ghost on NUCLEARINT. That's something which they have always played towards on the Ryze. this is the first time they've really done the same in bot lane to give themselves tools to play around them.
I mean, that pick priority, Ryze first, immediately followed by the Caitlyn and the Karma, despite the fact Caitlyn has had a small nerf this patch. But then things just got really wild in that second phase. As you can see, players are all just set up across the rift, no early shenanigans. Vetheo goes to an old classic on his Zoe, 18 games played prior to today, and he's won 50% of them. And then, of course, followed up with that Sett, the Viego, the Camille. It caught me a little off guard, but where are you anticipating shenanigans to be had?
Shenanigans. Well, I think that the most butting aheads will probably be happening in this bot CV2. I think that's where losses are felt the hardest. That's where things are going to get pretty awkward. But this top side, a little bit of early potential too.
Oh,
So much damage onto HiRit. Going to use that passive of his to block some, but early advantage to Adam on the Sett.
So we know that Sett loves his all-ins, running lethal tempo this game, not running the Conqueror, gives you that ability to walk past the wave and trade very, very hard, takes control of the wave early on, and again, BDS have some ability to play through the top side with the mid-jungle, and again, just knuckling down right onto this this Camille.
I mean, making such a difficult life for HiRit, and the analyst desk was talking about both Adam and HiRit, who have been two players that have struggled a little bit throughout the first half of spring. Adam, especially last weekend, some questionable plays.
Yeah, less said about that, the better.
But he started this one strong, pushed the wave all the way back to HiRit, got an early ward around the blue buff in Misfits that'll cover any moves there from Shlatan. And of course, in this mid lane, pretty even Stevens pushing forward back and forth.
So we saw this a lot around MSI last year, actually. Zoe able to walk up to the wave very early on with the long distance Q and take some control of that wave. Ryze, however, fairly unparalleled in that. And also he was one of the highest priority mid laners that wasn't really hit by a lot of the nerf bats.
And I know you were very excited by that Ryze pick. It's NUCLEARINT's second most played champion. And I think the ability to move around the map, still have the flash and the ghost available to him, if he's able to realm warp to either Adam or xMatty's lane, huge, huge, huge value to be gained.
Oh, but speaking of the mid lane priority, very nearly came in important there. See that Vetheo was looking down, just seeing if he could catch Cinkrof on a bit of a bad timer in his jungle clearing. Not to be the case though, NUCLEARINT not needed to be called down to that fracas.
No, not that time round. And going to bring us back to this middle lane just one more time, because we heard there from Vetheo, renaming his solo queue account has been very influential and impactful in the games that Misfits have been able to pick up. I mean, look at this. Kill participation first, damage per minute. It's in the middle of the table.
Participation
CSD
here.
in gold. And of course, while I'm talking about mid lane, there's a gank down bottom, flash away. xMatty gets to safety.
Now this is a very topical thing we're seeing in the meta. LPL loves doing this. Just force away the summoners away from Caitlyn lanes. They become very risky to play to their full pushing power after that point. We already talked about Caitlyn having that Q nerf, but I believe it's by 10% AD on that Q. Hits the pushing power a little bit. And now even when you do get that push, you've got to be wary of those lantern ganks.
Hugely, hugely important play from Shlatan, being able to potentially help out his bottom lane. And of course, when you see whether or not Shlatan can combo up, both with Vetheo, try shut down NUCLEARINT, or not. And I think for Shlatan, he's a player who's been relatively quiet throughout the course of the early game in the first half of spring.
And speaking of this kind of early game impact, look for something in the bot lane. Doesn't quite land it, leads to a double scuttle going the other way. Cinkrof on the other side has been much more of a stalwart play for BDS, probably their best performing member. If you look at Shlatan, you look at Mersa, they had 1 or 2 good games last week, but they're still looking to turn that into a trend, not just a one-off.
Yeah, I mean, really, really good call out. Of course, because Shlatan showed, it allowed Cinkrof to pull slightly ahead. Neon and Mersa have been pushed all the way under the tower. Matty and Limit still sticking around. Whether or not Misfits push out, we'll find out. Cinkrof is relatively close here to HiRit. He's got his flash available to him. Not level 6 just yet. Cinkrof steps into the
Jungler's
darkness.
not on top side. Looking a bit
This
doomed.
is going to look relatively simple. HiRit's going to flash away, at least from the engage, and escapes with his life.
Okay, so he does end up surviving. That's good. Adam potentially can set up a freeze here. That, of course, would force the return teleport. He's low enough health anyway. Mid lane, looking like the other side of the coin, though. This is looking to make a play.
Sleepy Trouble Bubble will not find the target. NUCLEARINT is going to be able to flash out of range. And that's multiple ganks, multiple moves from both Cinkrof and Shlatan.
And I really appreciate that because neither of these teams have really found that winning formula for that early game. Of course, Grabs was talking about in the pre-game interview, actually struggling to play around stacked waves, finding that impact on the map. They found something in the top lane, probably not all of what they wanted. On the other side, Vetheo, as it so often is for Misfits, finding an opening of sorts.
Yeah, being able to at least force the summoners unable to connect or find the kills. Very minor leads in CS top and middle here, but they're completely negligible. Not really important. The bottom laners have already been able to back, returning to lane with those Inquivers, and Shlatan once again showing his presence. There's no flash for xMatty. Cinkrof is here, no ult yet, and I think Shlatan still has remained hidden. Don't believe he was spotted just yet then, Nymaera.
Oh, but then he's going to get spotted just now as Cinkrof. I think with the Lantern behind, of course, they knew something was up. They're tracking the jungler at this point too. And once again, it's evolved into a 3v3 on the bot side. Junglers making their presence known. Well,
Vetheo is going to step forward, forcing NUCLEARINT to back away. If you look in your minimap in the bottom lane, there's 3v3 potential is still around. Shlatan's hiding inside the Dragon Pit. Mersa's gonna get caught up by that Mantra Q, lands the death sentence. Flame Choppers will at least interrupt the engage from Cinkrof. Flash forward from Shlatan. His first blood picked up by Team BDS. That is a steal away from Cinkrof to land the death sentence onto Mersa. Vetheo's late to the party and cannot impact it at all.
And again, Shlatan and Mersa, they're trying to impact the early game. They go for it, but this time they're punished. Bubble lands as level 6 Zoe. Not going to be landing that Paddle Star.
Paddle Star won't carry all the way through. BDS will be able to escape. That is a gigantic advantage in the early game.
It is, and where is it? It's in the bot lane, which BDS have drafted towards for the first time. We saw all the tweets about how a BDS bot lane is like, oh, so hard to play the game with 30 CS down. Now they're 1-0-1 on their AD carry. They're finding themselves even in CS. This is a good staging point to go towards objectives later into the game.
And of course, remember that Shlatan had ganked and shown his presence a little bit in that bottom lane already. So xMatty and Limit being able to, for the time being, outplay. NUCLEARINT has the Realm Warp available if necessary. If you look at the minimap, Shlatan and Vetheo will need some time before they can arrive. HiRit uses that hook shot to escape. Has got the ultimatum available to him if he wants to. Shlatan kicking NUCLEARINT back under the tower. The minions will just wear off and he escapes with his life.
Okay, so Realm Warp coming in useful. You can see again, NUCLEARINT trying to get active on the map early too. BDS's calling card, their mid-jungle, getting involved with a lot of these fights early on. However, this is at the Herald spawn. You've lost a lot of HP on some important members. That means that Shlatan and crew get the first swing at the Herald.
Team BDS are going to be so ecstatic with how this early game has played out, because the last time these two teams met, it was complete domination from Misfits, up 1.7k at 14 minutes, 5 kills. They spent 57% of the game in a majority lead. So for Team BDS to come back from that, draft a bot lane priority and play around it, Cinkrof once again leading the charge, will be helping out. He's going to be able to take him out. HiRit running for his life and just chunked down slowly but surely.
Oh, HiRit walks in, tries to contest the red buff. If you do end up securing that, sure, maybe there's an outside chance, but you don't have a smite, buddy. You're not running that kind of top lane style in this game. As the cross map, however, Sett forced off of a wave. It's not going to lead to a death in that sense, but at least there's a form of an answer from Misfits.
A little bit of gold, but they're down 3,000. And we'll look at the CS difference as well between HiRit and Adam. It's already up to 17. HiRit making those plays towards the middle lane at the cost of allowing Adam to free farm up. So BDS may lose this tower. It does drop down, close the gold somewhat, but they've got themselves a great start to the rematch with Misfits.
But that would be great if it wasn't Caitlyn getting the plate gold on the other side of the map. If you have a discrepancy in the amount of damage your AD carries can put out, that's when you start seeing noticeable differences in how team fights play out. Not to be the case though. Yes, Jinx does get some extra funding to get towards those item break points rather, that Misfits are desperately looking for, but it's not enough yet.
Not just yet. The one thing I do like though is with all of the tools to control how fights play out, with the disengage and engage options from both the Sett, the Karma, as well as even that Realm Warp, when you start adding in those Caitlyn snap traps into potential sieges and zoning around objectives, there's a lot of options that BDS can coordinate around, because no dragons have been taken just yet. They have got that first Herald, obviously, but this has been a very sort of champion kill-focused game.
It's been a bit of an arm wrestle, right? Because the only thing that's, worse than kind of just going towards an objective yourself is setting up for an objective poorly and baiting in a fight which you're not ready to take. Adam setting up poorly on the top side of the map currently.
I'm pushing very far ahead. Sweep shot will catch him out. Precision protocol as well. Adam is looking, not going to be able to find the shield, and pretty easy kills there for Shlatan and HiRit. The first of their game, but this will open up a cross-map play once again.
Okay, so as much as you have that CS advantage, don't have a tower, might not have a support alive either.
Not yet. The flash, the flay, sidestep away from the death sentence, and xMatty will use that Gale Force to dash forward. It ends up being a 1-for-1 as Neon picks up it on the back end.
Does pick it up, but he's low HP, doesn't have summoners anymore at this point. That's a surefire kill on this tower towards the bot side. Yes, it's now a trade between the AD carries again, but the extra kind of collateral goes to the side of BDS.
And what a fantastic game here for xMatty. 2-0-2. Gigantic
they drafted for him, baby.
On his head, which is also a little bit surprising because xMatty was one of the players on BDS that we hadn't yet really see step up to the plate in some ways. But, kudos here to Limit. He sidesteps a death sentence.
Yes, he does. You know, I've been a bit of an Matty apologist for most of the split. It's been a little bit difficult, but this game has been very important to show what this 2v2 can do on the side of BDS. It is a very opportunistic kill from the side of Misfits, and if you do manage to keep your support alive, there's a chance you can chase down with the Excited to get 2 out of that. Unlikely to lead into anything more than that, but at least Misfits trying to turn their woes.
They are trying. 2,000 gold up, a dragon as well. Now a little bit of movement around the map. Divine Sundra is picked up for Cinkrof. The other side for Shlatan. He's got himself the Gore Drinker. So itemization now starting to pick up and catch up to what Neon and xMatty have been able to play with. But once again, look at the minimap. 3-man stack for BDS going towards the top lane, and Misfits, they're invading into the red side buff of BDS.
And one thing I really like from Misfits right here is that they're clumping up to make sure that the Realm Orbs don't catch people out. Yes, you do have a Camille on one side, which is very good at closing distances. It might actually be Cinkrof falling prey to this first.
Ooh, Sleepy Trouble Bubble. Not going to catch anyone. Shlatan landed the Sonic Wave. Well, all of the Misfits members zone off BDS. A couple plates will fall in the middle lane.
The Realm Orb.
Realm Orb is coming out. The Flame Chompers land. And it was a zoning Realm Orb, Nymaera.
Yeah, because I've been looking for it for the last minute. Say, ooh, maybe someone's going to step out of position. Nope, no, that would be a very one-way trip if NUCLEARINT chose to do that. End of the line, Death Chamber. Shlatan potentially catching out the Ryze again, but he's 1v2.
Ooh, is he catching someone out or vice versa? Ace in the hole does a lot of damage, and Safeguard will be able to get him to safety. Shlatan not necessarily with close enough backup another time this game. And when we look at Misfits, still on the back foot, they are trying to put pressure on these towers and move around the lanes. But when you look at their composition, a lot of options for pick. They need to land those skill shots.
Pick themselves.
They need to find alone targets. Vetheo trying to run for his life. He's still got the flash available to him. NUCLEARINT and Cinkrof chasing forward, and Vetheo literally able to waddle his way to safety.
About to say, the most incredible of disengaging plays. It's the walk away slowly. Mersa showing his face towards the top side. Not making any plays right now, but Cinkrof might be walking into a hook.
Death sentence catches onto Cinkrof. He flashes away for now. Shlatan's got the flash available. That's a flay back holding Cinkrof in place. Vetheo not going to be able to land any skill shots just yet, so the disengage comes through.
So you can change the sides of the map. We can go down under if we want to, reverse those lanes, but it's still going to be a 3v3 in some form or other. Junglers really trying to make their mark on these earlier skirmishing junglers like the LeeSin. Viego's a little bit different, but of course he's hit his first item at this point. He's very ready to brawl. Got the teleport back into the top side actually from Vetheo. And actually I want to check back in with Vetheo again, because this is a champion who loves structured games around certain areas of vision, wear people down over time, landing the important bubbles. Vetheo's not had the position to do that just yet. The thing which I'm checking next from Misfit is, yes, Shlatan has managed to find some angles of attack. When's Vetheo enter the equation?
Yeah, I mean, the few times he has thrown a couple skill shots out, has not found a target. And similarly, when you look at this Misfits composition, I do want to go back and explore the idea. They've got a number of tools for sort of, picking off individual champions, not the strongest styles of engage. I think that's relatively fair maybe for both sides of the Rift. But it also hurts them a lot that HiRit is relatively far behind right now. He was going to be able to unlock some pressure in the side lane, maybe force movement from BDS that would open up the possibilities.
Well, if you flip the name tags, Adam had a Camille game last week against Mad. And one of the things about Camille is that if you go into a fight, you're rarely making it out at that point. That's a strong kill combo from Matty.
So much damage! Not going to be able to avoid the death sentence. Matty really feeling confident there. And ultimately, 90 caliber net sends him back to the fountain. While that was going on, look at the minimap. A number of wards from BDS have just been placed into the jungle, and we're 30 seconds away from the dragon.
It might be a kick.
Is going to flash forward, insta-flash from Limit, but Adam is still available. He throws down Vetheo into the middle lane, manages to pull pull back Neon, but a flash away secures another kill. Just like that, Misfits tie up the goal, tie up the kills, and Vetheo throwing all the skill shots a million miles away. Sleepy Trouble Bubble will cut off Cinkrof's escape. Continues to get poked down. The rest of Misfits arrive, and NUCLEARINT will get caught out once again. A double flay from Mersa. That's another kill to Misfits. NUCLEARINT is now trying to turn it around. Here comes xMatty. Ace in the hole. Will pick it back up. 6-6. The Realm Warp throws NUCLEARINT into the middle lane. No flash, no heal. That's a dead Neon is going to get taken out. One more shot. NUCLEARINT finds it, but now HiRit joins the fray. xMatty firing away. That's going to be the hook shot away to safety, and 3 members of BDS now pushing onto the turret. Paddle Star goes wide.
How is this not over?
I don't know. Sleepy Trouble Bubble will lock up xMatty, but there's no further follow-up in one of the longest skirmishes we've had this year.
So, you know the follow-up of not having that much engage? This happens, Trevor. You can't cleanly find your targets. You got to have multiple attempts at it. And Matty playing with fire yet again. And we asked it just a minute or two ago, when does Vetheo enter the equation? Turns out right then, the Zoe actually gets a good extended run at this fight. Reminder, this is after Caitlyn's gone down. You know you have the AD carry advantage. You've got the rocket even to start finishing off the first kill and get Neon right into the fight. Adam does try and make things a little bit interesting with zone engage. We're going to cut that replay short because we have a dragon taken from BDS.
Well, fortunately for Misfits, when BDS throw themselves into range of skill shots, that is one way to start and engage. Of course, while we were looking at that replay, Team BDS brute forced their way into the Dragon Pit. They secured it relatively unscathed. I do think having some of those wards in the Misfits jungle allowed them some level of confidence. But we're now bang on even on gold. Pretty much everybody has got their first big ticket items. The second Herald will look to go the way of Misfits.
So it doesn't look like this is going to be contested. So let's not talk about that objective. Let's talk about the Soul and looking further forward to the future. This is a Cloud Soul which is actually quite dangerous to give over because you don't have much engage. A lot of the time we talk about Ocean Soul and Cloud Soul being quite conditional. This is one of the better conditions. You've got a lot of low-range characters that need that extra move speed to close things down. BDS might be trying to close down bot lane if Vetheo steps up too far.
Well, Veteo's got that flash available to him. Cinkrof and NUCLEARINT hold on to the trigger. And after what was a very strong opening to the game, all of a sudden, Misfits find themselves on equal footing. They also find themselves with a Jinx at 3-1-2, 2 items completed, and a threat, something to be scared of. If she gets excited in a team fight, can theoretically run around Team BDS.
So we have to then revisit. BDS drafted for bot side dominance, and they've achieved parity. Is that going to be enough? I'm not sure. I think that Jinx, when you give them an even footing in a game, is always de facto ahead because they do win the DPS race against pretty much every carry in the game unless you're running into perfect weapons on something like an Aphelios. BDS now have to play around their team comp's identity, not just brute force things. You've got to play around the objectives, set up correctly, allow Misfits to come into you.
And of course, the other options here for Team BDS, some creative team fights. You know, when you look at Adam with the Showstopper, when you think of the Realm Warp that NUCLEARINT
Viego being a champion.
There we go. There's options there, but it will come down to execution as Adam
double TP
was pushing all the way to the top turret. 2 teleports thrown down. Shlatan joins the fray as well. The rest of Team BDS pushing onto the jungle in the bottom lane, and Adam concedes his 3rd death this game. I'm not certain if that pushing that deep is acceptable when you look at the vision line from Team BDS.
No, and you know, we saw that Adam got ahead in the laning phase. We saw that he did have that individual advantage, but lost the tower equally quickly. It's a double teleport committed from Misfits, but because they have the Herald, you can kind of understand why they want to heavily commit to one side of the map, open up things a little bit more, and HiRit can get more into the game.
A lot of damage there, and the rest of BDS, they're trying to put pressure in the middle lane. They will secure themselves that tower with a little bit of help there from those snap traps. And yeah, for Team BDS now, they do have some areas to attack. They are now down 1,000 gold. And I have to commend their approach, their attention to warding up the Misfits jungle, but I cannot then praise how the entire team's moving around the map, right? And this is a thing that we've seen from BDS. New players, new to the stage, a little bit of inconsistencies in their game. You can see some flaws in maybe their decision-making.
And if we're going to talk about like the pressure of this scenario, the pressure of the stakes in this match are equally high because BDS have climbed the bottom rungs of the LEC ladder. They've beaten all the bottom teams. You look at Misfits, they're just above that rung. Yes, there's an XL in between them, but BDS They're trying to climb this ladder, and Misfits are trying to kick them back down.
Yeah, keep them immediately below. Can they pull this one out? Because it does feel very, very close. A minute to go for the next dragon. Misfits grouped up, pushing all the way to the top lane. Team BDS are split up. xMatty in the middle lane, Adam with his TP in just a moment or two down in the bottom lane. And it looks like NUCLEARINT should be able to escape with his life. So both teams just poising and sort of threatening. Their engage is somewhat conditional.
Yes.
So it does make it more complex to actually start these engages.
You're looking to prey on mistakes. And the only time where things get really, really dangerous one team or the other is if you cede an objective area to the other team. You've got a Zarya on one side, got the Caitlyn on the other. You already talked about how the Realm Warp can obviously aid the side of BDS, while bubbles end up being equally devastating to BDS if they do let that vision lapse. Something's starting to evolve in the mid lane. Adam going in.
Yeah, Shlatan gets pulled backwards. Mersa's going to be able to flash for his life. Vetheo as well as HiRit are going to arrive 15 seconds before the Cloud Drake is up and available. HiRit, flash and ultimate available to him in a relatively good flank position. Can Vetheo find that sleepy trouble bubble? We're waiting for that individual skill shot to lock down. Chucks it across,
okay,
that will lock down onto NUCLEARINT. A good paddle star, but there's not enough further follow-up. Dragon is alive, and we're in a 5v5.
Okay, traps have gone down. Let's see how much BDS can do with their control. Another bubble lands, though.
Going to land. That's xMatty asleep, and so much follow-up damage. But Shlatan gets instantly rooted and locked into place, steals away the dragon, and escapes with his life. Neon is running, chasing, waiting to get excited. Finally,
they get out!
The Realm Warp! The Realm Warp takes BDS to safety. They lose the objective, they lose the fight, but they don't lose their lives.
I mean, hats off, rescue helicopter. NUCLEARINT gets the ult for every single BDS member. There were so many bubbles landed from Vetheo in a row. Must have been 3 or 4. And that really put BDS's feet over the flames. They just about get out. They do lose the objective, but that could have gone so much worse.
Oh, there is not enough time to focus on every single individual move when the 5v5s just butt heads. And Shlatan, somewhat of the hero, almost found the kill onto xMatty, was instantly held in place, so couldn't do it. But then he ward hops into the pit and is able to secure the dragon and get out alive.
There were like half a dozen to a dozen different micro-interactions which made or break that play. There was an interruption of the LeeSin queue, the bubble landing in the first place, another bubble landing in the first place. I'm loving seeing how these objective fights really start to evolve and how aware these teams are of their own win conditions in those moments.
Now, I'm not the smartest when it comes to understanding League of Legends, but do you think it'd be fair to say both of these teams not having that traditional hard go button is part of the reason we're seeing these slightly awkward, slightly drawn-out fights? You know, you're relying on individual skill shots, or you're relying on positioning or errors, like you've mentioned.
I mean, BDS will have seen this last week even because they had that against Mad. You know, they did have this, they did have some engage at that point, but they played against a team composition which didn't have that same engage, and they had to try and problem solve their way around it. Sadly couldn't do that. So you heard Grab saying, yeah, we should have won that game. This is a game which they would love to turn that fortune around on.
Yeah, they're taking a look at the summoner spells really quickly. Adam is flashless. The rest of BDS have theirs available. Shlatan on the other side, as well as Mersa, are down with those flashes, but HiRit does have the teleport in the bottom lane.
Using vision. Veteo's walking up. This is quite dangerous, actually.
Flash over the wall. Vetheo goes golden. Needs to find the lantern. Is there enough time? No, there is not. It's xMatty that picks up the kill. HiRit's going to run his way into the middle lane. Did not use the teleport. Now Adam a little bit behind the rest of the squad. HiRit jumps all the way forward, but holds onto the baby cage. A lot of damage onto Limit and Adam, but they're threatening to play on the Baron.
Okay, again, you're fishing for the mistakes. Now Shlatan on the flank, but there's a Realm Warp.
There is a Realm Warp indeed. NUCLEARINT gets held into place. Neon down to 50%. NUCLEARINT is taken out. Adam's trying to find more damage as Neon is firing rocket after rocket. Shlatan is running the rest of BDS away. Ward hops over the wall. 1-for-1 in the second engage.
Oh, there's beaten bodies everywhere. Bruises across the board, but Shlatan finally hits the ground.
xMatty takes him out to secure the third kill of the fight. In reply, they only lost 1. Still minorly ahead is Misfits, and nobody is healthy enough to make a play on Baron, so the game continues.
It continues, and because that fight was so elongated, actually BDS don't get great resets to try and get towards something like that Baron. This is already after Vetheo goes down, died for a control wood. We've all been there before. it is going to be that creative engage. It's using the Realm Warp to get into something. It's at the cost of the Ryze's life. Probably not the best price you want to play. And when the Jinx is already excited, it means that BDS can't continue the fight right down the gullet of what Misfits want to throw at them. They do end up walking away with a slight kill advantage with the jungler going down too, but close run things again.
Very, very close. And the next time these teams fight, a number of additional summoners have been burned. NUCLEARINT's lost his. Taking a look. Actually, it was just really NUCLEARINT who was instantly jumped on once
removed
that
from existence, yeah.
I mean,
didn't get to play the game.
No, definitely not. And I think both of these teams relatively committed to the objective fights. We've seen, I'm going to say, weak attempts at playing those side lanes. HiRit was, in fact, pushing down bottom before BDS forced the engage, forced the play onto Misfits, and for BDS, Adam has been punished for playing those side
He's been
lanes.
taking the Darien approach to League of Legends, where he just turns up in a side wave and hopes for the best. HiRit looking to force things in the center.
Well, Cinkrof the first one to jump forward. HiRit doesn't pull the trigger yet. A good crit on that rocket. The Sleepy Trouble Bubble is sidestepped. That's a slow landing onto Limit. Good damage onto Adam. Everybody's holding their breath, myself especially, because we have another long team fight.
Here we go, there's the Ghost.
Coming. NUCLEARINT chasing with the Ghost. Misfits are split up. That's a great pullback.
Oh, the
Adam.
kick!
They managed to pick up Shlatan on the back end though. Here it is, jump onto Limit. Neon gets excited, still alive, still full health. Runs down xMatty, and as soon as Jinx gets excited, the arcane buff is activated, and NUCLEARINT, the last man standing, gets aced by Misfits.
It's 4 for the Jinx. It's a battle of resets. You have a Viego on one side, a Jinx on the other, and it's the guns which come out blazing at the end of it. It's going to be the Baron as a prize. This is going to break open the game. If neither team has fantastic engage, it means that you're going to struggle to shut down a concerted Baron push too. Game-breaking moment from Misfits.
Little bit of ARAM energy over the last few minutes of play. Adam, Cinkrof, BDS trying to force their fight, and there was moments when they may have been able to pick up a little bit more. Misfits in the end, Vetheo as well as Neon cleaning it up. They push the gold lead ahead, they get themselves that Baron, and now they have the tools available to take control of the game.
My oh my, how did this happen? Adam gets a decent play at the start of it, but then just gets kicked into all of his carries on the backside. That is a top draw LeeSin ultimate. Yes, you've got some ability to fight back on the back end of this fight from BDS, but the Jinx wins the DPS race at this point.
Yeah, of course, such long range with those rockets, with the rapid fire cannon. Neon comes away 7, 1, and 4. Immediately picks himself up yet another. Well, Dominic's regards. We're setting up again. There's a dragon available. Here it's coming in from behind. I fancy there's another fight. Shlatan goes all the way forward. Manages to find xMatty. The Super Mega Death Rocket burns him down, but not enough for the kill. Now all of a sudden Adam, he gets targeted, pulled backwards with the death sentence. Here it solos out Limit. HiRit was in a 1v3 and managed to find the killing blow. Sleepy Trouble Bubble not yet fired. That he's going to find on Cinkrof, but not chasing. Instead, Misfits, they turning for the base.
You can understand why BDS were trying to stand and fight, give one last defense before the siege sets up in earnest, but they skip a few steps, cut a few corners, and Misfits cut them to pieces.
Well, take a look at the death time. It's 24 for Adam, 14 for Limit. Neon going to get a good chunk onto xMatty. They do not secure the inhib yet. That's because Shlatan is on the Dragon Pit. Here it is pushing down bottom. NUCLEARINT just gets caught out and will get taken down. Flash forward from Neon. He gets the killing blow. Cinkrof going to look for the Heartbreaker, but simply not enough to follow. Now Limit is joining the fray. The inhibitor still stands. And all of a sudden, Misfits are starting to back away.
Deep teleport, Dragon's alive. This could be a big fight for BDS if they can find any sort of engage again.
Adam's got no backup. Misfits have been able to split themselves apart, but they are low on HP. They are going to be the ones to start off this Dragon. That will make it 2 apiece. The Misfits with a slightly risky end to that siege. Get away mostly unscathed with another objective.
Oh, what a phase of play from Misfits. Love to see this mid to late game dominance come out of Misfits. They know exactly where their strong points are when it comes to it. BDS found just a little bit lacking in the setup, and once again being able to protect their backline when they're going for the bigger fights. Baron's just about to wear off. BDS don't have to deal with that much longer, but they do have to deal with the fact that actually the Jinx is now more than just online. They are pivotal to all of these team fights. If the Jinx is allowed to free fire, fight's over. BDS need to find some kind of way to turn the tables on what Misfits have been doing in the team fights.
Absolutely dominating. 8, 1, and 5. 700 gold bounty for for Neon's Jinx. 2, 1, and 10 for Vetheo once the map opened up. And I think, let's be fair here, I think once BDS started throwing themselves towards either objectives or fights, Misfits' answers have been mostly superior.
Oh, I'd completely agree. I think that you look at particularly a couple of really big LeeSin kicks. They could have actually just changed the game. Just a couple of clicks of a button at the right point breaks the back of the game. Now Misfits looking to try and close this out, trying to get themselves a buffer in those standings again. Failed to do that last week against Vitality. This is a very important game for them.
Now moving towards that playoff scenario. Of course, Misfits Baron has run out. No inhibitors were secured, but all 3 lanes pushed into Team BDS's base. HiRit will pick up yet another turret, and now Misfits playing a little bit of the patience game. Realm Warp is going to deliver a number of Team BDS members on to Neon. He's down. 700 gold bounty picked up. HiRit will be able to secure the inhibitor, though. The rest of Team BDS now need to deal with Summoner's Rift.
And that is
pushed down bottom.
That is a prime example of why 1-3-1ing really doesn't exist in very many compositions in modern League of Legends. Even with limited engage, BDS find a way to pick apart the isolated members of Misfits, and it's a really important pick off. They get the huge shutdown, 1,000 gold into the pockets of that Sett, of Adam's Sett. Gonna go back and see how they ended up doing that. Of course, it is gonna be that Realm Warp again, NUCLEARINT, using that champion to the best of their ability, and they just throw everything and the kitchen sink at the AD carry.
I mean, vision from BDS caught up the fact that Neon separated away from the other 2 members of Misfits in the top lane. His pathing decision ends up getting him punished. So, kill was secured. Small delay now on this final Siege's final push. And you look, 1.5 minutes to Baron, 2.5 minutes to the next Dragon. That's not even going to be sold for either team. And now Shlatan got himself flash in a moment or two, was able to at least hop away to safety. But for BDS, they're going to need a number of those Hail Mary team fights. Hope that Misfits allow an opportunity for them to get flanked.
And there's a key word in there, a number of Hail Mary fights. This isn't just one fight to get all the shutdowns off the table. Heck, there's only one there on the Camille. They need to find something that will give them like multiple ways to get into that fight again. Maybe they can get themselves a Baron with some kind of freak steal, but they're being shut out of their own jungle right now.
Yeah, Team BDS trying to set up some sort of trap, hiding inside the darkness of their own jungle. And for both of these teams, the early game and the movement around the map has now become relatively insignificant. I have to credit the fact Team BDS had a strategy that they went into with that Caitlyn Karma bottom lane. They were able to get it ahead. And unfortunately, they weren't able to safely push that lead further. So this is why Misfits knocking on the second inhibitor. The top lane turret slowly being chipped away. Inhibitor number 2 secured, and if you're in Misfits' shoes, you played slow, you played safe, wait for either the next Baron or the next Dragon, probably the Baron, and use that to try close the game.
Looks like it's going to be 1,000 cuts as the name of BDS's demise. They do lose that extra inhibitor again. And this is the point where you can't really leave your base unattended for too long. You've got Adam, who's still sat back there trying to clear out, but I think without the Sett coming off of a miracle flank, very few ways to get under Misfits' skin.
Adam does have teleport available. Mersa will take an ace in the hole as he's running away. 4 members of Misfits now inside the pit. They secure the Baron. Relatively uncontested. Some poke damage. That's because Adam needs to defend the base from all of these supers that are pouring in.
I would have very much appreciated if that was a redemption steal. I saw the attempt there. I appreciate it, Limit. However, not to be the case. And now BDS, who have given over that second Baron buff. We saw how destructive the first one was. This is going to be even more so. This is probably going to take the Nexus.
Okay, teleport is up for HiRit. He's level 17. Be a little late to the fight, but keep your eyes on NUCLEARINT. That Realm Warp could open up an opportunity, but it needs to be pixel perfect. The amount of time it's taken.
There it is.
Here comes HiRit to the top lane. Realm Warp will only deliver Adam. Showstopper pushes Mersa backwards, and Vetheo is able to escape with the Gale Force in the flash. There's no kills just yet as Adam gets a gigantic shield. Shlatan and HiRit jump onto xMatty, hit, delete, and send him to grayscale. 3 members of BDS running for their lives, and this is going to be a miracle if it happens, and I don't think that it will. Neon is unlocked, turns his attention to the remaining members of BDS. Now all of a sudden Vetheo trying to chip away onto the turret. Cinkrof taken out by Vetheo. The Misfits are now putting on a show as they try to pick up a couple extra kills, pad those stats, and look to take down Team BDS once again. Not the most energetic of reactions here from the Misfits players on stage.
It's all right, you've got enough to make up for it.
But a very, very intriguing game, because when you watch it play back and you look at how the side lanes were played, how the engages were either started or thwarted, I think there'll be a lot to discuss.
There will be. I appreciate the psychology of parts of this draft. You know, we talked about BDS trying to draft towards maybe somewhere they felt to get advantages before, which could stabilize their game. But neither team really had the go buttons to secure themselves the huge advantages. It came down to minutiae, it came down to mistakes. They went in the favor of Misfits.
And it came down to, of course, both Vetheo and Neon being very impeccable in their positioning, being enabled by Shlatan and HiRit. So this will push Misfits to 6 wins, 4 losses as they start the second half of the spring season. And that's very, very important, because those 4 losses were Vitality, G2, Fnatic, and Rogue. So for Misfits, they're looking at playoffs. They need to pick up a few more of those. Everybody watching at home, the 3 nominees for your key player of the game are Shlatan, Vetheo, and Neon. Go vote at LEC on Twitter. But I do think, again, for both teams that played today, refinements. Still looking for approaches to the game, maybe.
It's very difficult when you lose a game, not just because the enemy played well, because actually you misstepped yourself.
Yeah.
That can be quite damaging at that point. It's very high stakes, like we said. It's a little too early to start talking about make and break, but Grabs has already talked about if they don't go 2-0 this week, playoffs looking like a dire situation.
Very, very hard. I mean, historically speaking, you're looking at 8 or 9 wins as a minimum to crest into playoffs. This season, however, we do have a lot of very close games. So let's find out after the break. Ashley will be joined by Vetheo to talk about their important win in the race for playoffs. We're back. Game 1.
Back.
They are out there, waiting to be discovered. Some of them are big, and some of them are small. But that's the thing with ideas. They don't just come to you. To find them, you have to move. Kia, movement that inspires.
A lion!
Oh yes, the king of the jungle. Time for a quick Red Bull?
Red Bull? But you still won't be quicker than the lion!
I don't have to be quicker than the lion, just quicker than you.
Red Bull gives you wings.